Hi, Jameson Mitchell here, and in this video, I'll be doing the tarot reading for the week of December the 28th, 2015. So stay tuned. And here we are with the cards on the table, and I have to say, I'm very excited about doing this week's reading. I woke up thinking about, I couldn't wait to get to the table to do this week's reading. And the reason being is because this is going to be the last weekly tarot reading that I do for 2015, because this is the week where we usher in 2016. The first few days of this week are still going to be 2015, but by week's end, we're going to be in 2016. So this technically is going to be my last weekly card reading for 2015. So there's a little bit of excitement about that. I couldn't wait to see what the cards would have to share with us for this week. And going with that, the deck that's going to be assisting me for this week's reading are once again the Fairy Tarot cards by Doreen Virtue, Radleigh Valentine, and Howard David Johnson. And the reason for the choice is because I used it in last week's video, and it apparently resonates with a lot of the people who watched last week's video, because that video alone has probably been one of my most watched weekly card reading videos to date. So I'm using it again because it seems like it works, it resonates with people, and I enjoy working with it. So again, we're going to be using the Fairy Tarot cards by Doreen Virtue, Radleigh Valentine, and Howard David Johnson. And so as I do with every general weekly reading that I do, I take the deck in hand and I focus, but I shuffle the cards with my focus and intention on the question being, what do we need to know about the week ahead in terms of any potentials, any possibilities, things like that. And so what I do is I shuffle and I just look for cards to stick out, cards that speak to me. And the first card is going to represent the beginning of the week, so that's like Monday, Tuesday. Shuffling again, and the second card will be for Wednesday, Thursday, the middle of the week. And then looking for a card to round out the week, which will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is our third card. So these are the cards that are going to make up this week's reading. So now I'm just going to take a moment to make sure that I have them all in the shot clearly. Fantastic. Okay, so these are the cards that are going to make up the reading. And so I always start with the card that is on the bottom of the deck. For me, that represents the base or the foundation for the week. And so our card at the bottom of the deck is the Empress. So now the Empress is a major arcana card, and so major arcana cards carry more weight in a reading when they show up. They represent important issues or events that we could experience, and they serve in terms of our spiritual growth and development. They serve what we call the life lesson. So when we have one of these important issues or events, it's usually connected to our growth spiritually and psychologically in some way, or at least that's how I interpret them. So the Empress is a card that represents a time of creativity. When I see the Empress, it's about nurturing your creative side. It can also be about something being in development. I'm looking at the image on the card, and here we have, that expression of two peas in a pod. So there are two peas in this pod here. So for me, it represents something that's in a growing stage. It's in the process of growth and development. Typically, the Empress in tarot is depicted as being pregnant. So, symbolically, pregnancy can represent things like, that process of growing and developing something, nurturing it, taking care of it before it becomes manifest. Just like the baby is being nurtured and cared for in the womb before it comes out into the world. And so it's similar to that kind of energy. So this could be a week of expectancy. This could be a week of growth and productivity. This could be a week where we are being asked to nurture and take care of something that we are preparing to birth into the world. And so that could be literal. So it could be somebody watching this week's video is actually expecting a baby, Or it could be, what is synonymous of being your baby in your life right now? You know, it could be a creative project, it could be a business of some kind. It's saying it's time to nurture it, it's time to grow it, it's time to develop it, it's time to be productive in it, and that will help the process of putting it out into the world. The 3 for me is a number of creative self-expression. And so if you watched last week's video, we had the 3 as a number show up 3 different times with 3 different cards. And so it's the same thing here. This number is about your creative self-expression. I call it like finding your voice. So what is it that you want to express in terms of who you are and why you're here, and how can you get about the business of doing that? How can you put time and energy into doing that this week? So this is the Empress. Now the last thing I want to say, because I'm getting this nudge to say this card can also be about how we care and nurture for other people. And so when I see this card come up, sometimes it's a gentle reminder of making sure that if you are playing the role of caretaker in your life, in your relationships, no matter how that is for you, then you're being urged to remember not to neglect your own self-care. So this is about creating ways, notice how I said creating ways, or being more creative in terms of your own self-care. So you're just as important, you know, as the people that you take care of. So how can you be more honoring of yourself? This card says that when you take care of yourself, you better equip yourself to take care of those who need you to take care of them. So that's the last thing I want to say about the Empress. So now, moving on to the card that represents the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, we have the Chariot. Okay, so we have another major arcana card here. And the Chariot, for me, when it shows up, can represent life direction. This is a card that represents moving forward. It represents progression. It represents advancement. So some of us could be either going along with the Empress, what I said about this time of growth and productivity and development. We could see ourselves moving something along. That's what this card is. Now, I said for me, major arcana cards can represent, you know, the important issues or important events. Sometimes when the Chariot comes up, it can represent the idea of looking at your life and wondering where your life is going. Where are you headed? And this makes perfect sense in the fact that, again, just like I said earlier, we're moving out of 2015 and moving into 2016. So this may be the time. You may start the beginning of the week saying, where do I see myself going? Where would I like to move in terms of my life direction? So that's the Chariot. The card reads, success that comes from dedication and self-discipline, celebrating your accomplishments, being in the spotlight. So the Chariot can represent, like, in terms of the spotlight, so it could be like if the Empress is talking about maybe something being on hold or something being on pause, then I always see the Chariot as getting the green light. You know, I tend to be, you know, into pop culture and entertainment buff, and so I sometimes see in my mind those Hollywood projects that they get what's called green lighted, which means that they move from one stage to the next stage in its development. So the fact that I'm saying that, this could be your week, starting off the week, where you get the green light to move forward on that thing that it is that you want to accomplish, or that direction you want to move into. The Chariot could also represent that you may need to embark on some training. Now, another lesson with the Chariot card is about no matter where you go in life, you are always in control. We have a choice of whether we're going to be in the passenger seat of our lives and be a spectator and just looking at the scenery as we go by, or we're going to be in the driver's seat and we're going to take the wheel and we're going to take control. So just remember, even when it looks like you don't have any control in your life, you really do. You have just maybe chosen to relinquish control. And so this is an opportunity for you, going with the number 7. The 7 represents self-awareness. It's a psychological number for me, so it represents self-awareness and self-insight. So you could ask yourself, if you have been prone to just feel like you're just moving through life, you're just looking at the scenery, you're just watching life go by, why are you choosing that role? What do you get out of that? And if you want to make the switch, how can you become re-engaged with your life? Because it's your life. No one can live your life but you. And so you get to choose whether you're going to be active and be in the driver's seat, or you're going to be passive and be in the passenger seat. So that's the beginning of the week. Moving to the middle of the week, we have the Ace of Spring. Oh, I love this. Okay, so the Ace of Spring can represent a new period in life. Aces represent new phases. It represents beginning. It represents a new phase or chapter in your life. Spring as a suit for me can represent things like work, business, enterprises, and creative endeavors. And I love the fact that there's no accident that I laid it above the Empress card. So there's that kind of energy. So this could be the week, in the middle of the week, where we either one or two things. Either we get a spark of inspiration, we get a spark of motivation, or something that we may have kind of put by the wayside, we kind of get reignited about that. We kind of get the passion back for it. I always look at this card as like the movie Stella Got Her Groove Back. So some of us may experience getting our groove back, whatever that is for you. But I also see it as embarking on something new. And so again, no accident that, you know, this card is the middle of the week, and that will be the time where the year ends and the new year begins. So it's like, what do you intend? Because this suit, the spring suit, is about intentions and actions. What do you intend for the coming year, and what corresponding actions do you need to take that are going to honor that intention? The card reads, it's time to take action. Be fearless and happily pursue your most treasured dreams. Amazing career opportunities. So that will be the middle of the week. And now rounding things out, which would be now ushering in 2016, we have the wheel. Okay, so now we have, if you've noticed, we have 3 of the 4 cards here on the table. Right now, our major arcana cards. So this is going to be a significant week. Now, the wheel as a card for me, the first thing I see with the wheel is that it can represent a major turning point. And so again, you know, the whole thing here with that, it's about, you know, events being set into motion. And so it could be, you know, again, going with the change of the years. This card can represent, you know, a new cycle. And so I'm seeing that with the year. And for all of us, we will all be engaging in a new cycle when the calendar year changes. So there's that. Now, the other thing about the wheel card is about growth. It's about expansion. So some of us are going with back to the Empress. This is a time to kind of see things grow and evolve and expand. And for those of us who are watching the video, this is going to be showing up in different ways for all of us, because growth and expansion is going to be different for all of us. Now, this card can also be about major opportunity coming our way, because for me, this card represents opportunities. And this is a card that's putting you on notice. It's about looking at the little twists of fate. There was a movie that starred Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta called Twist of Fate. So sometimes when I see this card, I hear Olivia Newton-John singing the theme song to that movie. And so since I'm hearing that or seeing that kind of imagery from that movie, this could be the time where we're being put on notice to look at life's little twists of fate. And this is how they'll show up. They'll show up like little or big synchronistic moments. I look at the wheel as like a card of synchronicity. It can be ascribed as like fate or destiny. If you believe in things like fate and destiny, then this is what the wheel card represents. I find it very interesting that I'm looking at the Chariot on one end and the wheel on the other end. These cards are both what we call travel cards. So it could be travel in the literal sense, like you're going places, you're moving along, things of that nature. It can also be figurative, like you're metaphorically traveling, growing, moving places. You might see the wheel could be the end result of that direction that you put yourself on. You put yourself on a certain path, and then you start seeing the opportunities, the events unfold that kind of correspond to that new intention, new action, going back to the Ace of Spring. These are very nice cards to have in a row. So that is the wheel for me. It represents, like I said, growth, expansion, opportunities. But the biggest thing is about a major turning point, and we're all going to be going through that. The last thing, and if you believe in this too, this is very big picture. The chariot can represent karma, and then the wheel can represent dharma. So we may be moving from a place of karma to more of dharma, and dharma represents like our purpose, our calling in life, like why it is that we're here, you know. And so we can get about the business of moving more in that direction. So that is the wheel. So the final thing we can do with these cards is to take the chariot, the ace of spring, and the wheel, and to look at the numbers and add them up to see what other major arcana card could represent the overall lesson for the week. So we'll get right to that. All right, so now taking the chariot, which is number 7, so we have a 7. The ace is 1, and then the wheel is 10. So adding those numbers across, we have 18. And so the 18th major arcana card is the moon. And the moon can represent a time where we are being asked to go with our intuition. This is a very highly intuitive card, as soon as I find it. So, and intuition can mean different things to different people. Sometimes I call it, you know, going with your instinct, you know, trusting your gut, you know, going with your hunches, things of that nature. But no matter how you language it, it's all the same thing, really. It's just semantics, you know. This is a week to do that. Now, the other thing about the moon card, and it just struck me because we have just come out of a week where it's been not only the Christmas holiday, but we had a full moon on Christmas Day. So I'm seeing that because I'm shooting this video right on the heels of that experience. So the moon card can just be following up with the energy of the full moon. And so sometimes in that regard, the moon can come up when we are feeling very moon sensitive. I know that when it's time for a new moon or a full moon, my level of sensitivity gets really heightened, and so sometimes that can affect me in a great way and sometimes in a not so great way. So I'm just putting that out there. For some of us, we may be feeling the lingering effects of the full moon, so prepare yourself for that. And going back to the Empress, because there's no mistake the way I lay the cards, the Empress is on the bottom here. This is a time for you to nurture and care for yourself as you move through those kinds of energies. So honor your sensitivity. Again, and having said that, we may be experiencing sensitivity in how we relate, react, and respond to people around us. I sometimes see the moon card going with the idea of full moon. When I worked out in the world in my corporate job in customer service, I sometimes cringed when a new full moon was embarking, because I always thought that the full moon brought the crazy people out. So sometimes this card can just represent, be mindful of people being really emotionally sensitive, not just you, but people around you, and that can have a triggering effect. We can sometimes trigger other people when they're in that sensitive space, and we can also be triggered when we're really feeling sensitive. So be mindful of, if you're having an emotional reaction that seems a little bit more heightened than would normally be the case for you, then it might be that you're just feeling the energies of the lunar phases as they're moving through the week. Another thing with the moon card, in light of the change of the year, or if you're embarking on a new direction and you're creating the intention and action around that, the moon card is putting you on notice because it can represent the things that we sometimes are fearful of. I sometimes see this card as like fears and phobias and things in our subconscious awareness. So things that we have kind of maybe suppressed or repressed may come up to the surface, and if that is the case, if you're experiencing that, it's because it's time. It's time for you to confront those things that you are afraid of, or that you have kind of created fears around, because they may be the things, I'm looking at the moon being between the chariot and the wheel here, they may be the things that trip you up or kind of put the roadblocks in what it is that you want to move forward in, or a new direction that you want to move in, going back to the chariot here. And so they may come up to kind of create the roadblocks to keep you from moving forward, because I see that as being the moon between the chariot and the wheel. The other thing could be, this may be a time where you're being urged to pay attention to not just your gut and your hunches, but if you are a person who's active with your dreams, this could be the week that you are being asked to pay particular attention to the dreams that you have, because they could be informing you, giving you guidance about the direction, or actually give you direction about where your life is headed. And dreams are so important because they are your own personal guidance. They're your own resource. You know, things like having your cards read or doing a weekly reading like I'm doing here, that could be considered external, right? You're getting the guidance from an external source. But your dreams come from you, and it's always right on target, because the dreams are referencing you, and they are helping you become more of an expert on you. So you're being asked to pay attention to your dreams this week. You know, I always urge people to look for, you know, repeated symbolism, you know, repeated locations, repeated people, repeated actions, because they may be the things that inform you about where your life is going. And dreams are important because they want to help us heal certain parts of our lives, going back to the idea that the moon can represent fears, you know, help us heal those. And they can also work on improving our life overall in every area. Dreams want to help us heal and improve every aspect of our lives. You know, I'm a really big proponent of that. So that is the moon. So again, summing up, we have the chariot at the beginning of the week. This is a time to explore either your life direction, where you would like to see your life going, what you're moving in. It's about becoming more active in that, you know, taking the wheels, taking control. You are a part of the process. You're not just a spectator in your life. You have to participate in it. You know, this could also be the week where, if you know where you're going, this could be the time where you start to see some forward movement, some progression, some advancement. Ace of Spring, this is the time of either one or two things, either a new endeavor of some kind in which you get to plant the seeds for that now and to start to see the potential of that growing in the future, or that you get your passion rekindled, you get that spark reignited, you get your groove back, you get your mojo back at the middle of the week. And then going with the wheel says this is a time of growth and expansion. Pay attention to the opportunities that come your way. You know, look for life's little twists of fate, little synchronicities. So this has been your week in tarot. And as I wrap this up, I just want to thank everyone who has been so supportive of my weekly card readings. When Spirit asked me way back in January to do this, I wasn't sure about it, but going back to what I said about the moon, I followed the guidance, and it's been an interesting journey. It's been an interesting ride going with the chariot and the wheel along the way, you know, and so I'm really excited to see where things go from here, now that I've kind of been maybe giving guidance about moving in a new direction. So we'll see where that goes. But, you know, for the meantime, in the moment, I want to thank each and every one of you who has watched the readings, who has taken the time to like them, to comment on them, and to help create a dialogue with me. There is a number of you who I consider to be like my core viewers, my core support team, and so I am so grateful for each and every one of you. And I look forward to continuing to share this space with you in 2016. So until our next video together, I wish you a happy new year, and I'm partnering with you in setting the intention for your life direction and seeing some forward movement and progress in that. So until our next video, happy new year and take care.